Dave?
Yes, yes.
Okay, stand by, stand by.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are about to go live. We're doing some final checking and setting up. So let persons know that Transforming Live is now on the air. You can watch us on YouTube, Transforming Lives Radio Show, or via Facebook through our page, or through the page of David Williams or Lyndon Williams. So just stay tuned. We'll be starting shortly. In the meanwhile, while you're waiting, I'll let you listen to some music by the popular songwriter Wintley Phipps.
About 26 years ago, I was flying back from Los Angeles on an Eastern airline.
You got your live to go ahead, Rina. Your live now, go ahead.
And
We couldn't hear you. You should have brought in the music on the radio. That's why we didn't know. But anyway.
Okay, the music playing now. So you can start now. You can start now.
Okay, good. Next time, I'm just sending it in through the music. We just want to wish a pleasant good afternoon to those of you tuning in live on Global 99.5, Cable TV 974, Facebook, Zoom, YouTube. Welcome you for taking the time. I'm Dave Williams, host of the program Transforming Lives, along with my co-host Jackie Gardner, who's not here today. I'm coming to you live from Chicago, along with Reverend Anthony Sands, Minister Wilton Pinder, Minister Stephen Morrison, Minister Keith Burrows. And so we here in Chicago attending a prison fellowship conference. We say a special hello to Patricia Wallace-Pat. She's on the Zoom Live. and a part of our ministry with Prison Fellowship Bahamas. Also, welcome my co-host, Kendra Bow. She'll be in my place, as well as also, my brother, Pastor Lyndon Williams. And so, folks, I just want to say today, it's a pleasure to be alive in the land of the living today. And as usual, we always begin our program with my guest, Dr. Leslie McMillan. He will share on 5 minutes with Christ. We call it Moments with Christ. And then my co-host, Kendra Bow, and Pastor Lyndon Williams will take over. Dr. McMillan, welcome to you, sir. You down there in the state of Florida. I'm in Chicago. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, Dave. Enjoy your trip in Chicago. We missed you this morning at the meeting at Holy Dove, but now we understand, and we hope all is going well. It is my privilege to greet everybody this afternoon in the powerful authority and the merits of Jesus Christ, our Savior, who gives us that contact with the Father. He said that nobody gets to know or relate to the Father except through him. So that's critical for us. Dave recognizes this, and hence this short period on every program. And as I reflect, as it seems, on the subject this afternoon, I would like to refer to one of the many metaphors that Jesus uses to reflect his relationship with human beings. And it's the one where he speaks about persons having eyes, but they cannot see. And he speaks about persons having ears and they cannot hear. And then he speaks about persons who are blind and yet they can see. And the greatest of all of these that we can understand, where he refers to himself as the light of human beings. First of all, the Bible says the eyes is the light of the body. That's how any human being is able to inform his or herself, mentally or otherwise, with anything that's on the outside. But in this metaphor, where Jesus refers to having eyes and not being able to see, and then like he also says, blind leading the blind. What he's talking about here is that by faith, persons who connect with him, believing in who he is, Savior, he being the light of the world, the Bible says, he is the life of men and light. It is important that irrespective of our physical or mental condition, that we connect by faith with Jesus. And in so doing, there will be wisdom and understanding. There will be trust and confidence that comes from him and from his word, because he speaks to us. He enlightens us with his word through the power of his spirit by faith. And so that's the importance of this hour. And it would be nice that each of us who are here, we reflect on our fellowship with Jesus. As we fellowship with him by faith each day and every moment thereof, then he brings into our lives, into our mentality, opening visions, new things. And really, that's the purpose of this program. In essence, each session deals with something new that can bring light and hope and joy into the lives of individuals. And the good thing about adding Jesus, it means eternity, eternal life. May each of us enjoy it by faith.
Thank you, Dr. Mark. And it's amazingly, you start off talking about being blind and visually impaired. Actually, one of our guests is visually impaired, but I endorse and support everything that you've said, that above everything else, Christ must make the difference, not your church, nor my church, not your denomination, nor my denomination. But the only thing that will matter when you want to die in bed is eternal life, and that comes through a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so I turn it over to Kendra. Kendra, welcome to the program, Transforming Lives. Thank you for co-hosting for Jackie and I. Hi, Kendra. If Pastor Williams, if Kendra's having a challenge, can you come in? I'll mention our guest, Mr. Ken Roll. He's going to tell you a little about himself and his other co-hosts as they're talking about Vintage Festival. I guess the name itself talks about, I guess, a reflection on old things, things of the past, historical things. Kendra, are you there?
Okay, good afternoon again, everyone. While Kendra gets ready to come in, I think she dropped off for some reason. We have two guests today, and they are Kendrick Roll and Italia Gordon, who have a special program they want to introduce us to. So I'm going to ask both Mr. Roll and Ms. Gordon if they will introduce themselves and introduce the reason why they want Transforming Lives today. Want to say welcome.
Good afternoon. Yes, I am Kendrick Roll. I'm the chairman of the Bahamas Coalition of Advocates for Disability Awareness and Service, which we use the acronym BICADIS. And my guest, Italia Gordon, I'll let her introduce herself and say where she's from.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Italia Gordon. I'm the president of the Bahamas Society of Ophthalmic Nurses. We are a nonprofit organization, and our goal is to promote the awareness of eye health and the prevention of avoidable blindness throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Italia. And BICADIS is also a nonprofit organization. And our goal is to create an inclusive environment where all persons with disabilities are treated with dignity and respect throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And we are here today. We have two major projects coming up by the end of the year. On October 28th this year, we're going to be hosting an event called the Eyeball. And it sounds ironic because while everybody has an eyeball, we're going to be hosting a black tie affair or a ball that is focused on the eye. And therefore, we are hosting the Eyeball. And the purpose for hosting the Eyeball is to be able to assist children, especially children, those who are on the family island, with receiving some form of eye care services. You know, the nurses would go down and do testing and other stuff like that related to the eyes for the children. And then where there's a need for glasses, we try to provide glasses for them as a part of our organization's, one of our organization's main objectives. And also the Eyeball will also recognize leaders in the eye care profession, as well as persons who are thriving in life despite living with blindness or low vision. And we also want to recognize entities, businesses, and persons who support the community of persons who are blind and visually impaired. And prior to the Eyeball, hosting the Eyeball is a mammoth task. So we have to do some form of fundraising in order to defray some of the overhead expenses of the Eyeball. Therefore, on June 17th, which is a few weeks from away, we're going to be hosting a vintage festival called Back in Time, where we're going to be looking at 50 years of how the Bahamas has transformed, and we'll be celebrating by highlighting fashion, food, folks, fun, and just Bahamian culture and the different ways it has changed from 1970 to now. And that event is going to be held at the mouth of Fort Charlotte between the hours of 4 p.m. and midnight on Saturday, the 17th of June this year. And that's what we're here to talk to you all about today.
Okay, thank you so much. It sounds quite interesting. And I think persons who have visual challenges or who and need of medical care would greatly appreciate that. As someone who, I guess you would say due to age, has to wear reading glasses, I think it's so important. Can you give us some more information? And whenever you're ready, Kendra is back. She had some little challenges there. About taking care of your eye. How often should you get your sight tested? What are things that the average person you would like for them to know at this stage?
Good afternoon again, everyone. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes, like I said again, eye health with the society in which I'm the president of, we definitely promote eye health for persons even starting from birth. There are children who are born prematurely and they have issues with their eyes. And one of the main conditions that they would have is a disease known as retinopathy or prematurity. And that is where the child, because of their premature state, their lens, the retina in their eye is not developed fully. And so if the parent does not check as early as 2 to 3 weeks after being born into this world, eventually it can cause them problems later on. We also would advise persons for the children from ages 5, especially our children going into the schools. We have a lot of issues with the children with astigmatism. And so we have adults coming and they're wondering, how come no one ever told me about it? But if they were screened from the very early age, like I said, at the age of 5 and up, they would have been able to get the assistance that they need and probably would not have had to go through the process of even going blind as a result of not knowing what was going on with them from a very early age. So I would advise the entire population to at least have your children screened from as early as 5, just to ensure that their eye is in perfect condition.
Okay, that is awesome. I've never so good afternoon, everyone. This is Kendra Bow filling in for Dave Williams and Jackie. Forgive me earlier, had some technical difficulties, so I was on but got bumped off. And so as you just shared, and you're talking about having eyes tested as early as 5, like even in taking your children when they get their immunizations, that is something that you don't even hear persons being advised to do. So can you share like what would be then um, some of the signs that people can look out for so people could recognize why this is serious, and any statistics you may have in terms of for here in the Bahamas as it relates to issues with the eyes or blindness or anything of that nature?
Um, I can speak from the perspective of where I work at the clinic, the community clinic. And basically, I can have as much as 20 children in the space of 2 weeks come in with problems relating to their parents or even the teachers recommending that they get their eyes tested because they can't see the board. That's the first thing that they would say. They can't see the board from a distance. Or they will have, I don't know, during the time when we had all of the schools on the Zoom platform, that's when we encountered more persons coming into the clinic because they had no other choice than to use the computers or the iPads or the tablets. And what we would have recognized were a lot of the children were complaining of headache. A lot of the children were complaining of blurred vision. And also we would see that the children actually did not even have 20/30 as a vision. And the passing grade is 20/20 for a person who has perfect eyesight. And
Right.
so because a lot of the teachers were complaining about the children not being able to complete their homework, not knowing that the children actually didn't, not that they didn't understand it, they couldn't see it. And
Right.
because of the Zoom platform and a lot of the children being exposed to the computer on a regular basis, we had a lot of complaints of headaches, even dizziness. Some of the children said they had blurry vision, double vision. And so when you hear a child complain of those type of things, you know definitely that's a red flag and they need to be seen by an optometrist. As it relates to the statistics, I won't be able to give you that at this present time because there are many other persons in the field that had persons coming into them, and we were not able to correlate a general overview of how many of the children were affected. But I only can give you to date from where I am sitting at the clinic where I work. I can tell you we had at least a total of 200 to 300 children from the school system coming in and complaining with these type of symptoms.
Okay, all right. So to our next guest who is on, Mr. Kendrick Roll. Now, as I came back on, I heard you starting to mention a little bit about the event that you all will be having in June, and but I didn't get to hear the beginning of that part of why this event is so important, and I guess what the purpose of the event is going to be for. So, can you give us just a little brief recap on that for me, please?
It's no problem. We are hosting Back in Time. It's an event that is going to celebrate 50 years of fashion, food, folks, fun, and Bahamian culture. And the purpose for the event is to help defray some of the overhead expenses for hosting the Eyeball. The Eyeball is going to be held on October 28th this year. And the proceeds from Eyeball goes to assist those children that Nurse Gordon talked about here and those on the Family Island, because they go to the Family Island and do screening and give other eye care services for children. And in most instances, the children would need glasses, so we would provide glasses for those children too. And so therefore, the Back in Time event is a feeder for the Eyeball. And we just want to encourage people to come and support that initiative.
Okay, awesome. So for this particular event, and I see because it's linked in terms of heritage, I heard you mentioning something early in terms of 50 years in terms of tracking the time. So I'll give people a little bit more of a feel in terms of what they can expect in terms of for this particular event, and then also for the ball that is coming up that you're talking about for later on. Like what can people expect in terms of for these events coming up, and how can people who may want to support these events, what are the things that you're looking for people to do?
Okay, well, when you come to Back in Time, from you enter the gates and start walking down into the fort, you're going to be entering a gallery, and the gallery is going to be taking you through the time zones. You first enter the 70s gallery, and so you would see all kinds of photos and activities and stuff related to the 70s, whether it's music, fashion, games and toys. You remember back in those days, we used to make scooters or the 2x4, and we used to, God forgive us, thief the trolley wheels off of Super Valley carts and make our scooters and box cart. So you would start seeing stuff like that, music and other stuff you would see on television. Be going down through Soul Train and all that stuff. Then you would enter the gallery for the 80s, and you'd see all the memorabilia from that decade and all the stuff that goes along with it. We have a vintage play area. When you get into that area, you'll be able to play hopscotch, 4 squares, jacks, and we're talking playing jacks using the tennis ball and rocks. We talk because we want to go back to those days when we made our toys and not go on Amazon and purchase the toys and games for the children today, and we want to expose the children to that. You'll play a little basketball with the tire rim on nail up on the tree and stuff like that, and then you just continue going through the time zone gallery until you reach right up to the new millennium, and then as you continue in, you will just come up to the day's life. And then as far as the fashion is concerned, there's going to be a fashion show, a vintage fashion show from the Fashion Mob Squad. And they are going to be showing you different styles for over the past 50 years of how people used to dress and all that other stuff to go along with it. We're going to have food from way back then. We're going to have our chicken in the bag shack, our sweatshirt shack. We're going to have our tuck shop where you could go buy your cup and your bag. I know some of these things are still around, but we can take it back to the things that you used to the way you used to get it. You know, you'll be able to get your conch salad out of the mayonnaise jar in a little cup after the seep a day or two. and you get your cream cup and baggie and all those other stuff. We're preparing to have all of that, and your flour cakes and Benny cakes and all the vintage food, the real pea soup and doughboy and harmony and lard and all of that other stuff that we remember eating from back then. And then we'll be taking a look at folks, people who we know from over there area, especially dealing with music and poetry and culture. We're highlighting people like Pat Raming. Pat Raming is one of the leading attractions and supporters of this event, because he is now experiencing issues with his eyes that's leading to him going blind. So he is a great supporter of our efforts, and he is actually coming out of retirement to be a part of this initiative. And other people like Freddie Munnings Jr. and senior people who have been around in culture like Vola Francis, who started the Saxons, and we're going to involve other cultural icons to be a part of this whole experience. And so we just, while these people are still around, you interact with, we just want to take you back to that time when life was different, and then just take you through that gallery or that transformation time and bring it up to how we are living today. We just want the children to experience it, and those who remember it to just take that trip down memory lane together. And if you want to support, you just go to Cash and Go. You can either go in Cash and Go or go online at www.cashandgo.com, and you can purchase tickets for this event. We have early bird tickets now going at just $25 to come to the event. And that is going to last for another couple of weeks. And then the price will change. We're not sure what it's going to change to, but we want to encourage people to purchase now so that you would get in and be a part of this experience. We'll have a different rate for children. Children can pay at the gate. We're not, children don't pay the $55. We'll have a low rate for the children because we want them to have this experience, and also make it possible for the parents to be able to come out and not have to worry about babysitting or having babysitters, so that they can too share this experience with their children and young ones. And so that is the aim. And of course, we're going to close it all out with a nice Bahamian culture type concert.
Awesome. That is quite a bit of stuff that you actually spoke about. And so what I would like to ask is the Ministry of Tourism in any way a part of this event? Because I think that would be something that would be awesome for our guests to experience in terms of our way of life as you go back down memory lane. So is the Ministry of Tourism in any way a part of this event?
The ministry has been approached. Approvals have been given. We just have a small issue I think we're trying to sort out. So within this week, we're going to have that finalized and have the ministry stamp on this event. But yeah, so they're doing, I think one of the key persons had an emergency or they were ill. And so they weren't able to get the finalization on the endorsement. But we expect it to happen this week. And yes, we get it up on the ministry side and make it possible for our tourists to be able to come in and have and share this wonderful experience that we're planning to put on.
Yeah, definitely. Because I know that, every day as we have tourists flock downtown, they're always looking for something that ties them in terms of to our culture. And what you just expressed, I mean, I think that would be definitely something that taxi drivers and others would want their guests to be able to experience and be a part of. So I really trust that and pray that the Ministry of Tourism will give their support to this event, and you'd be able to get some of our guests to come down and be able to experience it. And so I heard when Nurse Gordon spoke earlier, and she spoke about the children coming into her field, and it sort of prompted her in terms of her involvement in terms of in this area, in her being exposed to it through work-wise. And so I don't know if I missed it earlier, Mr. Roll, but can you tell us why is it that this is such a passion for you and this is the area that you've chosen to give a contribution back to?
Myself?
Yes.
I was 4 years old. I was diagnosed with cataracts in both eyes, on the lens of my eyes. And so by the time I was 6 years old, I had both lenses removed from my eyes, and I used to wear some glasses. Oh, the glasses were also thick. I think my first pair of glasses back in I can give you all my age right now. Anyhow, around 1979, my mom paid nearly $600 for a pair of glasses back then because of my issue. And then later on in life, as I became adult, I wear glasses and contacts all my life. And then I became adult. I was trying to diffuse the situation. I had to get hit in my eyes, which led to retina detachments, and I became blind. So after my years of depression and I decided to just try to turn my life around. And instead of being miserable and sulking that I had lost my sight, I decided to see how I can work in areas to help others preserve their sight and spread awareness about eye protection and sight preservation and blindness prevention. And so as an individual who was blind and then know how traumatic it was becoming blind and how important it is to take care of your eyes, and just growing up with eye issues, I always want to give back to be able to help others who either can avoid that situation or to just help them cope and live with the situation and help them to recognize that despite being blind, you still can lead a productive life and contribute to society in a positive way.
Wow, that is powerful. You know, I remember when I was growing up, there was a blind man in the straw market. This is the straw market, Cable Beach. Jim was his name. Jim or James, something like that. And
Jim,
I
I know
I
him.
always, you know who I'm talking about?
Yes, I know him. It's Jim.
Jim, yes.
Let me not to say I'm being rude, but I like to correct persons when they use the term. He is not a blind man. You put the disability second. He is a man who is blind. He's a man first, and then he is blind. So that's just a little bit of English I like to keep people aware of when they speak about persons with disabilities.
Well, I want to thank you for that, because that's a part of raising the awareness so that we all can know and our listeners can know in terms of what is appropriate. I think when we had a show, I think it was last week or so, the person who was on, she was sharing something similar. And in terms of speaking in that way, in terms of what is the correct term, in terms of using for people who are facing or who face challenges in our society, and she was giving the correct term on that. So
Yeah.
for Jim, a man who was blind,
Yeah.
so what I think I loved about what he showed is that he always had a vibrant personality, and he was always full of life. And if you didn't see him walking with the cane or walking around, like, you wouldn't think that he was blind. And I'm saying that in the sense that, you know, he didn't show any difference, is what I'm trying to say. It was like he was there, he was contributing, he was making sales with guests. And sometimes you're trying to figure out, like, does he really have a disability? Like, can he really see? Because sometimes it felt like he could see better than those who had sight,
Yes.
because he picked up on things around him so quickly.
Yes.
And then there's also another gentleman who sometimes you would see him catching the bus. Now, sometimes there is a lady who is with him, and sometimes I often would see him like in the Wolf Road area, somewhere in that vicinity. But you would see him sometimes catching the bus by himself, or you would see a lady sometimes with him, helping him navigate as he is on the road, getting to where he needs to get to. And so I think that the comment or the statement that you made when you mentioned earlier that even though this may be a challenge someone may be faced with, or a disability that they may have, that you can still contribute to society. And so I think that that's a wonderful thing to let people know, for those who may be facing this particular challenge. One of the questions I'd like to ask, and I would like to bring Nurse Gordon in on this, is that when it comes to disability on the whole, I think that there is a lot of work that we still need to do in terms in the country, in raising awareness and people having a greater appreciation in terms of for persons who may have various types of disabilities. But when it comes to sight, what are some of the things that you may have experienced, Nurse Gordon, when it comes to children, and how they respond when they find out that either they have to wear glasses or that they may be losing their sight or something or anything along those lines? What are some of the ways that you found that the children have responded?
I would say based on the age, because a lot of the younger children, they are not totally aware of what is really going on with them. And because they have that support either from the blind school, the school for the blind, the Aaron Gilmore School for the Blind, where they have activities to keep them active and involved and encourage them, they're not so taken back by it. But you would find that the teenagers more when you have to tell them, oh, you have to wear these glasses to assist you with your screen, especially the male population. They don't like to wear glasses. And so what you would find is the parents would purchase the glasses for them, and later on they can't find it because it's like a stigma or some type of self-esteem for them with how they look in the glasses. And so you would find a lot of them, they're not really on board with that, but you just have to encourage them to let them know that we would try to get the most trendy one for you, and if we can assist them with just encouraging them with their image to let them know they look good, let their parents know, just to encourage them to let them know it's for their benefit in the long run. I wear glasses. And so I always tell them, as I know you don't want to reach my age and wear these thick glasses that I have on. And so, you just encourage them. And basically, once they get the notion that there is nothing wrong with wearing them and that they look fine with wearing them, most of them adapt to it. And then for the ones who get depressed because they have more serious conditions like keratoconus, where they have to wear these thick glasses, like Mr. Roll was telling you about. They have some very thick glasses. They're not too attractive. And then you have some that have to wear the contacts, and they're not really interested in that. And so you just have to encourage them. And you have some that they do go into depression because they understand that the type of disease they may have may cause blindness. And so once you involve them in activities and get them involved in organizations like what Mr. Roll has, the Bacadas, and other disability activities for them to understand that we are here for you. There are more persons out there that are very productive in society that are doing just as good or better with this same type of disease that you're dealing with. Then they understand that, yes, I'm not alone, and there are persons out there willing to help me in whichever way they can, just to encourage them.
Okay, awesome. Can you tell us when you mentioned, and I know Mr. Roll mentioned this as well, and so actually I'd like for both of you to be able to speak to this because you both spoke about depression. Mr. Roll spoke about a period of him feeling depressed based on whatever his diagnosis would have been at the time, and then you just mentioned it again in terms of with some of the children, and so. You talked about raising self-esteem, but what tips would you give to parents or guardians or even to persons who may be listening in who find themselves with some challenge along this line? What tips would you give them to help them to come out of that place of depression that they may be in as a result, or who they have a diagnosis and they don't want to wear their glasses, or they're trying to avoid going to the doctor or getting surgery, whatever it may be, because they are afraid. So what advice would both of you give in regard to those things?
I definitely can tell you for the teenagers, they need that support system. And I would definitely recommend that they would join an organization like Wakatas, like the Blind Alliance, like the Aaron Gilmore School for the Blind. I would also advise that persons get counseling because it's not easy transitioning from a person that was sighted and then to find out later on that you're blind. And especially for the teenagers, they need to be told that you are still a human being. You still can do activities that other persons may not understand. You do it differently. That's all. And then you encourage them to know that there are other children or other persons like you going through the same process. And so you connect them. It's a family that you connect them with. Because I've had persons who didn't even know that they had certain diseases like glaucoma. And the minute I allowed them to connect with another person that was diagnosed, and they was able to encourage them to let them know that it's not a life sentence, it's not even a death sentence. You can overcome this, but you have to do the necessary things that the doctor would advise so that you can maintain whatever vision you may have before it gets to blindness. And so it's all about empowering persons, connecting them to the right organizations so that they can be a part of the activities that they have. Because if you were to come into a forum with the activities that I would have been accustomed to seeing with Bakaris, with the Blind Alliance, you would see that they go out and they have fun. They are also a part of the normal community where they have parties. I mean, they have more fun than us who working and can see and can drive. And you would see that they have these activities where they improve them on the level of independence. Don't depend on persons, not because you cannot see. That means you can't use your hands. That means you can't use your feet. You can use other things. And if you heard the famous vernacular where one sense is gone, the other ones are heightened, believe you me, I've had an experience where I was chauffeuring one of my persons who had a visual impairment. And when he said to me, "Why are you taking the scenic route?" I was like, "You can't even see where I'm going, so how do you know I'm taking the scenic route?" But because he was already aware of where he was taken from, and he had the idea of whatever preconceived notion, he knew where I was. I couldn't understand it for nothing, but he could have told me, "You should have went this way." And I was like, wow. So you can't take it for granted that persons don't need the encouragement. You can't take it for granted that they don't need to be a part of a community where they feel accepted and where they can do things for themselves, and just empower them and let the parents know. Do not keep them inside. Let them come outside and play like the regular children. Let them be a part of organizations where they can get the skill set that they need to work along with not just Braille, but be able to use their cell phone, be able to use their computers, be able to deal with everything that the normal sighted person will deal with, but just in a different way.
And to add to that, awareness is very, very important. We, in the community of persons who are blind, we do lots of things that people never understand. For example, 2 nights ago, I was in a domino tournament with some guys from the prison, and I was winning games, and they didn't understand it because they don't understand how I was able to follow the game and was not. You know, and so awareness is important to take persons who are blind and visually impaired into the society, let people see them and let people understand how it is that you live, survive, navigate, and yes, so they can get a better understanding of how to allow them to integrate into the regular society. And trust me, what I learned is that people, because when they don't understand something, they are afraid of it. And so therefore, we who are blind have to teach sighted persons how to live with us. And so, like Nurse Gordon said, you don't hide the persons, you let them go so that they can interact with others and so that others can learn how to deal with the community of persons who are blind and visually impaired. Another thing we do in our organization, because we try to create activities where persons who are sighted are able to walk in our shoe or be able to live like a person who is blind. I have been going to schools. I've even introduced it on the Family Island, Exuma, the latest one. There is a game called Beep Ball. Beep Ball is baseball for the blind. And if you would look it up on YouTube, you'll see that there's a whole league across the US where they play beep ball. I think every state has beep ball teams, and they have their World Series and what's not. And so I have gotten the equipment and I have introduced it here in New Providence. I've visited schools and gotten children involved, and the children, because they're understanding about blindness, they love it. And then reports come back in how the children are now more sensitized when they see blind persons and they know how to relate to them. And they are totally blown away And actually this summer we're trying to create a beep baseball camp so that sighted children can integrate with blind children and be able to play beep baseball and really get a better understanding of what it is to live with blindness. Because like we told them, or we often tell them, you're sighted today and you can become blind today. And in doing that, at least they would have had to get a head start and recognize that there is some place to go, there's somewhere to turn, and they would know what to do if they find themselves living with blindness.
Okay, that is awesome. So, Mr. Roll, I'd like to ask you, was there seeing that you are doing this and you're leading the charge now in doing this so that you can, in having created an organization to assist persons who may be blind today or become blind, was there an organization during your time when this happened that you were able to be a part of or reach out to? Were there any mentors for you to help guide you through your difficult periods? How did you become who you are in order to start this organization that you have started?
Well, unfortunately, in my youthful days, when I was wearing those big tip glasses and was not there, was not no organization around. And so therefore, my youthful days was very tough and challenging, and going through school and just having to live with a visual impairment was rough. But it was back in 1997 when the first organization, that is the Bahamas Alliance for the Blind and Visually Impaired, when they became a legal entity in the Commonwealth of Bahamas, and they were focused on creating an environment where blind and visually impaired people can go to have a home and get peer counseling and just learn to cope with living with their blindness. Now, my mother, she was diabetic, and in her latter years, she became blind, and she also became an amputee. And so as a teacher all her life, she was a person who, whenever something happened to her, she would go and try and learn how to adapt to it. And in doing so, she became the first female vice president of the Bahamas Alliance for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And that's how I learned about them. And before she died was when I started having my eye problems. So I knew to connect with the Bahamas Alliance for the Blind and Visually Impaired, which I did not. And you would find that most persons out there, when they become blind or visually impaired, they don't really want to be bothered. And it takes years of encouraging them to want to come and be a part of an organization. And we still find that happening today. Persons would join organizations after a period of being blind and trying to make it on their own. But I did not do that. I honestly fought for my independence myself, but eventually through an act of God, I was put in a position where I had to join the Bahamas Alliance for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And I went in and I was a part of the organization. I rose and I served as a president for a time for them. And then I moved on and I formed Bicardis. Now, the reason for me forming Bicardis is not only to help persons who are blind and visually impaired. Like I told you, my mother also became an amputee. And so therefore, between my work and my passion, I have to deal with disabilities across the board. I am the Special Projects and Programs Officer for the Disability Affairs Division in the Department of Social Services, which is a branch of the Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development. I wear a number of hats. And I also sit presently as the Deputy Chairman of the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, where I've gone as far as the United Nations to represent our country on disability matters of us at a conference of state parties for the Conventional Rights for Persons with Disabilities. So Bicardis itself is made up of a number of different disabilities. We have persons in wheelchair, we have the deaf, we have persons with intellectual disabilities, and more, all a part of Bicardis. And so our whole aim is to deal with disability across the board and as a whole. It just so happened that because I'm blind, I am the one who usually ensure that we are part of things that deal with sight preservation and blindness prevention, while my other counterparts would go and be to seek out programs and projects that we can be a part to support other disabilities here in the country.
Okay, that is awesome. It's and forgive me because sometimes I think we often in society, when we have not been educated on something, we tend to look at someone with a disability and think that there isn't much that they can do or not expect much. And so we fall into that trap where, as Nurse Gordon would have talked about, letting the children go outside and be amongst others. And when you talked about awareness and going around persons with sight and being a part of it in order to raise the awareness, it's almost like I feel like we often, what we do is we want to hide what we consider to be our shame. And
Mm.
so we want to stay closed in or would rather think of keeping our loved ones closed in. We're afraid of what could happen to them. And okay, well, because they can't see, we don't want them, we don't want nobody to take advantage of them. All of these things I think we come up with in society because we think it's the safest route or it's the easiest route or it's that way in which we could hide our shame. And so to hear, you talk about both of you speak about allowing them to go out, allowing them to play, allowing them to integrate and mingle is such a great thing in terms of to hear, in terms of persons being able to overcome some of the challenges of depression they may face or to continue to raise awareness within the society. And so our time is almost coming to a close. And so I just want to ask either of you, is there any other information that you would like to share as it pertains to the organizations, the events that you're having? Because I actually, I do quite a bit of work with young persons myself. So I definitely will be reaching out to Dave, so that when we do events in schools and such like that, what you spoke about in terms of the game, and I tried to write it down. Was it beep or beat?
B
The ball.
B-E-E-P, beep
Beep,
baseball.
right. So the beep game and that you talked about having those who have sight even playing and being a part of that. I
Yes,
think
we blindfold them. We blindfold them. We actually had a tournament last year with the Defense Force and Alive and some teachers from the Carmichael Prime, which is now Sybil Strawn School. So we did a tournament with them and the blind kids. We blindfolded the teachers and the Defense Force officers. They had a wonderful, wonderful time, and we're looking forward to doing it again.
yes, because I think that is a wonderful thing in terms of being able to raise awareness and also raise sensitivity in terms of persons, because children can sometimes bully on persons who may have a disability. And so I think that that's a wonderful way. And so definitely in terms of that, I would like to ask one other question before I give you guys the floor in terms of being able to share any other comments you may have or that you want to share for the listening audience. But the event that you're having, you talked about fashion, and when you talked about some of the activities. Now, in attending this event, are persons also to dress in any way from that period, like people wearing afros or you're wearing clothes from the 70s? Is that a part of the event as well in terms of coming dressed in some way from that period?
Yes, we welcome persons to dress from whichever era they choose to, and there would be gate prizes for persons who embrace that opportunity. And so, like I said, we're doing it all about fashion, food, folks, and fun. If you go to our Facebook page, which is Vintage Vibes 242, you can find us on Facebook. You will see that we're also at this point having scavenger hunts. We're having retro karaoke competitions and other little stuff like that. What we're doing, we're trying to encourage persons to be a part of the upcoming event and to support the whole purpose of it. So yes, you dress the era, you come, you play, you behave, you do whatever from that era, take you back to being a little girl or a little boy, and also bring the kids to experience it. And we anticipate having a wonderful, wonderful time. We also asking for vintage stuff. We have a listing. I think it's on the site, on the Facebook page of stuff. If you have them, if you could bring them, it would help us with our prop and displays. We have video players and cassette players and 8-track players. Somebody bought us an 8-track player and a couple of cassettes, the 8-track cassettes the other day. We're looking for rotary phones. people's pages. If you could go down into the basement, or like the old people used to say, go overhead in the house and see what you got. And if you could bring it to our drop-off point, and so we could use it to put on display for persons to really see what's happening. I have a guy sending me an Atari player all the way from Eleuthera, because he wants to put that on this display. We know the children don't know what that is, but the adults definitely know what is an Atari and a Pac-Man game and what's not. So that is what the Back in Time Vintage Fest is going to be all about. So I encourage you all to, like I say, look at our Facebook page, Vintage Vibes 242, or go to Cash and Go or cashandgobahamas.com and get your tickets now as we prepare to have this wonderful time on June the 17th at Fort Charlotte.
Okay, that is awesome. And so, Nurse Gordon, do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with our audience?
I will endorse the Vintage Festival coming up, and I would definitely advise everyone to support it, because we don't know who the next person would be that would need assistance, and we need to have more persons coming in and buying in on this committee to make this ball a success, because we need as much sponsors as we can in order to facilitate a successful event.
Okay, thank you so much. And then the eyeball that the proceeds are going to, is there any other information in terms of the eyeball, or that will be forthcoming at a later date?
It's forthcoming because we have our planning committee together, and we're just making preparations and reaching out to persons to know who are going to be the patrons and what's not. We have already identified the location, but we won't want to put that information out as yet. So we'll definitely be back on your show right after Vintage Fest to start telling you more stuff about the eyeball, because we would have some stuff more confirmed. But we do know that it's going to be held on October the 28th, 2023, in commemoration with World Sight Day, which will be being held earlier in the month.
Okay, thank you all both so very much for being a part of Transforming Lives today. This was truly an eye-opening interview for me, because I learned so much, things that I have heard for the first time being here. It was great being able to hear of the things that we can do, even if we find ourselves in the situation, we have a loved one that's in a situation, or even if we know of someone, and ways in which we can even direct them. I just want to do a little brief recap before Dave comes in terms of closing out the program, or Pastor Williams. But there was just a few things you said that I just want to just recap for our listening audience, or someone who may have been coming in for a short time. You talk about some of the things that is going to be at this actual event, where you're going back in time. It's going to be music, fashion, games. You talked about the old school scooters that we used to make back in the day. You talked about the fashion. You talked about a vintage play area, and you know how we used to play basketball, and and all of those games. And you talk about the tuck shop and the real pea soup, you said. And you also talked about how Pat Ramming is also going to be a part of this event as well. So for persons who want to support this event, who want to be a part of this event, the tickets are going to be sold at Cash and Go, and it's for $25. You can also go on Facebook, and the Facebook page is Vintage Vibes. Is that correct?
Yes, Vintage Vibes 242.
Vintage Vibes 242. And so you're able to go on Vintage Vibes 242. And then, even as Nurse Gordon would have shared, she talked about some of the challenges that young persons may face, or children may face, as they may find themselves with a challenge in terms of the area of sight. And just wanting you to let them go out, interact, let them play. One of the things she said that I thought was so powerful, she said it is not a death sentence. And she talked about empowerment, empowering them and connecting them to the right organization that they can be a part of. And then one of the other things that was so powerful is to place the man before the disability. Is that right, Mr. Rowe?
Yes, ma'am.
So
whether it's blindness, deafness, you always place the person first, disability second.
Yes, so you place the person first and disability second. And so I want to thank you both for being a part of Transforming Lives today. Like I said, it was a informative show. I'm so glad I had the opportunity to interview both of you, and definitely to come again for when the event for the ball is coming up, so that we can highlight that ball and get persons to be a part of that as well. So turning over to you, Dave.
Thank you very much, Kendra. Thank you, Kendrick Roll. Thank you, Nice Gordon, for, and of course, like you said, another opportunity will be provided after the Vintage Festival to discuss and to talk more. It's not your first time on the platform, and the platform is always open and available to you. Folks, I just want to thank you once more on this wonderful Sunday afternoon for tuning into the program Transforming Lives on Global 99.5, Cable TV 974. Also on Facebook, we're on YouTube, on Zoom. Thanks, my brother, Pastor Lyndon Williams, and Kendra. Once again, Jackie's not here, but I'm sure she'll be back next week. We'll be talking about transgender in the schools. What are your views? We're inviting you. You wish to reach out to me, 433-6917. You want as many persons on to get their views on transgender. Should we teach folks about it? Should we educate them in the schools? And I also want to say, I just received a WhatsApp message, a young lady by the name of Janelle Ingham. They're calling for blood. A family just contacted me. And so if you're able to go to the Princess Margaret Hospital and ask for the make blood donate in. Sorry, yes, Janelle is her name, right? That's right, Janelle. So I want to thank you this wonderful Sunday afternoon. You enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Support the Vintage Festival. Dave Williams, Jackie Gardner on the program Transforming Lives on Global 99.5, Cable TV 974 and 979, sorry, 5. Encouraging you to have a wonderful Sunday afternoon.
Kendra, if I can add in before you close, I won't be able to make the 17th, but I will work through Dave, or you can contact Dave if you don't hear from me, as to how I can make a small contribution toward the effort, because Mr. Roll did take me back in time when he started talking about the scooter with the trolley. No, I didn't teach nobody trolley wheel, but I'm sure you'll be forgiven. And kite flying, the baton balls, and
Yes.
maybe
Yes,
if you can
we're gonna
find,
have all of that there.
Yes, and that's
black
why I
and
said
white
for an
TV
event
too.
that he described, the Ministry of Tourism ought to really be behind this and to assist in sponsoring this, because what they have outlined is something not just, it's wonderful for our children to see and be a part of, but also it will really create a wonderful experience for our visitors as well.
Yes, it
Yeah,
will. If you can find a
yes,
black and white TV, make sure bring it.
Yes, I agree too. Yeah, Kendrick, you really brought those memories back. I had forgotten about those things, but thanks. I look forward to at least coming out and seeing what it's all about.
Yeah, no problem. And if you all got any stuff in the storage or know anybody with stuff in storage, please reach out to me. Somebody told me they have a floor model TV. I tell them I'd like to use that so we could rest the TV on top of it and put the hang on it and let people see I used to watch TV back in the day. The floor model was only there to hold up the TV, but you watch it, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have a lot of stuff we're looking for. We're still reaching out, and stuff are coming in. So we're thankful for that. And by the time we get that, we'll be able to set up those prop shares how we need it. But it would only work if we have people continuously asking. You know, our team is small, but the more people we let know, and the more people who just support, if only in that way to try and help us to get stuff, would be a great help.
Okay.
All right.
All righty. So we will stay in touch, and then and I will keep my ears to the ground if anyone who has any vintage items. I know that in Fox Hill at the Fox Hill Community Center, they did, I think about 2 years back, have something where they did borrow from someone who had vintage items, some of those old school stuff, and that they had around the center. Some of the old iron, the goose, and stuff like that. They had different things like that around the Fox Hill Community Center. But definitely, I will keep my ears open and see if anybody has any items they care to willing to donate or to lend to this event.
Yes, we only want to borrow it. We don't want to take it. So if they don't have to feel away if they only lend it, that's fine. So you can find one of them old wooden scrub board, anything to go like that. We will be on display, all those type things.
All righty.
Okay. Thank you all ever so
thank
much.
you, Mr. Roll, and thank you everyone for listening in today at Transforming Lives.